back in the room.
Back in the room.
And if you are watching us on a YouTube, you'll notice that I'm back in my old regular room rather than being somewhere else, which I have been for 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Okay.
have you ever been labelled as difficult or told you argue for the sake of arguing? And if you have ADHD, you might know this all too well. Today, Paul and I, we're going to dive into oppositional defiance.
Yes.
What it is, why it happens, and how it's connected to ADHD. So, welcome to ADHDville.
Two old geezers met a bunch of years ago, not by coincidence, as it turns out. I had a big yellow umbrella, he had odd socks on. Let's ask him a question. Martin, have you got odd socks on today?
Let me check. On this one, I have
roll.
a short white Adidas sock on.
Yes.
And on the other one, I can just tell by the thickness that it's not the same, so I don't even have to look. I mean, it is shortened and white,
right?
But not the same. Not the same.
Odd socks on. Okay, there you go. Okay, so hello, I'm Paul Thompson. I was diagnosed with the combined ADH and the D a fistful of months ago.
In fact, I think it's like over 12 months ago, right?
Yeah, 13.
Right. And I'm Martin West, and I was diagnosed with the combined ADHD poo-poo platter in 2013.
Yeah. So we're just two mates who, coincidence or not, after 39 years of friendship, discovered we're co-ADHDers. Hurrah! No, it's really important to say this is an entertainment podcast, okay, about adult ADHD, and does not substitute for individualized advice from qualified health professionals.
No.
So don't take any advice from us, he says, going to a deeper tone without any reason. We're just here as a kind of all-inclusive ADHD park bench with room for everyone, including your doppelgangers, your alter egos, your body doubles, your chaperones, and even your best buddies. Still here? Congratulations. You've already won a badge for your staying power. Then grab your jetpacks, pedalos, space hoppers, and any other transportation methods, and let us take you to ADHDville, an imaginary town that we've created in our minds, where we like to explore different parts of the A, the D, the H, and the D.
And we start off, as always, here in the town hall in the mayor's office, where we, the joint mayors of ADHDville, take care of business. And just looking at my agenda, we are talking about ADHD and Oppositional Defiant Disorder, ODD. Odd. That's odd.
It's odd. It's odd. It's odd as an odd. It's an acronym, isn't it? Because the acronym has to be a combination of letters that actually make a word. So it's an acronym. Yes. Yes.
So where are we going to go?
I think is the question. We're going to the X something, a mystery place.
We are going to location X. Location X. Mystery location for our discussion. And the reason is because obviously with oppositional defiance, one of the things is that someone will go, let's go to the coffee shop, and you'll go, no, I'm not going to go to the coffee shop, I want to go to the fire station or whatever.
Yeah.
So just to save us from being,
I'm going to go down to the cemetery and smoke fags.
Nice.
Yeah.
How goth of you, and listen to the Smiths.
Exactly.
We are going to to avoid any oppositional defiance, we're going to go to location X, of which I have no idea what the theme song is.
Right.
So anyway, let's bring the car around.
Yes.
And jump in the car and go to mystery location.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Mystery sound. Okay. How long is it? It's okay. It's not too long.
It's just short. That sounded emotional.
It did. It did. Okay.
So,
So
should we
this feels. I've written up here, Martin. This is because this is like a big comorbidity thing, with ADHD. I was wondering, it's almost like it's maybe too late now, or maybe not. We should have like a comorbidity horn or a sound that we should have. I was thinking like a glockenspiel.
Oh,
So when it's a
blimey.
comorbidity, we sound. Maybe I should buy off Amazon. I'll probably after this recording this, I'll go onto Amazon, buy the most expensive glockenspiel that I can find.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, it's a comorbidity. It's a biggie. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a tricky one. It's a tricky little number, this one.
It is.
At least it seems to me. Yeah.
So, So what is oppositional defiance disorder? I mean, it's kind of, I think it's like a collection of symptoms. It isn't necessarily a formal diagnosis. It's like a pattern of resisting authority, feeling frustrated, frustrated by external control. So that's like people telling you to do things, and then that kind of brings up a bunch of contrary.
I'm already getting nervous.
I know.
Just saying it.
I know. And then that can kind of. So how do you know whether you have it? Well, I mean, it can kind of come up in a whole bunch of ways. It means that you can, you may often or argue with family members and co-workers and actively defy or refuse to comply with rules and laws, and deliberately annoy people, which is an interesting one, which I will come back to. Blame others for their mistakes and their behaviours. That's another interesting one. Easily annoyed by others, get angry and stressful, spiteful and vindictive.
Yes. I've also got because there's a lot of confusion, Martin. Because one thing people may not know when listening to our podcast, we actually do our research that we do is very much we do separately, and we kind of hope that they kind of merge as a kind of a happy accident when we do the podcast, literally as we're doing it. There's a lot of confusion about this subject. There's also confusion about some people suggest there's the justice sensitivity thing that's very prevalent in the ADHD community. Whether you could add that to the list in reality to the oppositional defiant disorder.
Yeah.
And weirdly, Martin, I kind of got that list pretty much as you've got it. Okay, about how that can show up, ODD can show up. I've got a list, actually the same number of things as bullet points under justice sensitivity, and they're really similar. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of crossover, really, because we've got frequent anger. So this is specifically to justice sensitivity. There's 8 of them, just as there were for the other ones. Frequent anger and resentment and victimization, fear of future victimization, indignation about injustice done to others, strong drive to restore justice, perceiving injustice where others do not, hopelessness about large-scale issues facing the world, feelings of worthlessness when unfairly treated, rumination, Martin, about inequality and injustice. So it's like really like a lot of crossovers there.
I would also add on to there, if you have autism, or you're like autistic and ADHD, sometimes it's not even this thing of coming over as being a difficult person. Sometimes it's just because the autistic side of you wants clarification on something. It's just asking questions because you want to know what the rules are, what the guidelines are, what parameters are, what they just have. We just have questions, and then that can be perceived by other people as you being annoying and a difficult person. When actually, all you is just you just want to
It's like
you just want to find out
Alice.
stuff.
our last guest she had on, Alice, she said that a lot of colleagues and friends that accuse her of being confrontational, and
All right.
especially at school. I think she mentioned school, and she said, "No, I just want some answers. I
Right.
just want
Yeah.
some
So,
answers that make some sense to me."
yeah, that was a nice chat. I think that was episode 58. So go and check out
Yeah,
that lovely chat with Alice.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So
like,
yeah,
it can be like road rage, verbal abuse, like authority
mm,
figures, trouble at work.
yeah,
It can be quite. Also, this thing about comorbidities. It also seems to like share a lot of space with rejection sensitivity disorder
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
they feel like brother and sister, they feel like they're very
Yeah.
they almost feel like
Well,
twins.
but also people pleasing, because there's one part of me that was like in rage, right? And the other
Hmm.
part of me just doesn't want to upset people. And what the hell is that all about? I mean, which makes it even worse. I
Right,
mean, just insane.
right. I was, I d- when I was
Right.
walking Eddie this morning, I was thinking, and I don't actually remember where I came to. So I'm hoping as I talk that it'll pop up in my head. But in my pie
Right.
chart of
Mm,
of what my people pleasing was, there was a slice. I went, oh yeah, there's a slice
mm.
which is this oppositional
Okay.
defiance. Oh, I know why. It's because I know I'm like that. So I know I have oppositional defiance, and I've
Hmm.
known it for so long
Yeah.
that I actively work against it all the time, right? So if
Hmm.
so there so I overcome that by being
Yeah.
extra accommodating and going along with
Right.
someone else, knowing inside
Yeah.
the opposition I'm feeling. So if they say, right,
Yeah.
well, let's go to this cafe, and for some reason
Hmm.
I just feel oppositionally defiant that I can feel that
Hmm.
feeling bubbling up in me, and I go, oh yeah, that's my oppositional defiance. I will just ignore
Yeah.
that, and I will be and I
Yeah.
will people please to kind of compensate for that.
There you go. Yeah. And then I don't know if you get this, but I feel like ashamed towards myself for being ingenuine. It's like, why didn't I just tell them to, you know, to go and screw themselves? You know,
well the thing is I don't always know where, say I don't want to go to this cafe, I don't necessarily know where that's coming from. You know,
yeah,
if I think it's coming from oppositional defiance, then I'll
mm,
just or
there you
or
go.
or some sort of rejection sensitivity disorder thing. I'll just
Yeah,
try and ignore it, right, and
hmm,
go, no, let's just go to the cafe. I'm being
right,
stupid.
yeah,
There's a couple of angry
hmm,
brain cells in my head that are just going, no, no, no,
yeah,
no, no. I'll just ignore them. But sometimes
mm,
there can be something in you that
uh,
there's a reason why you don't want to go out,
yeah,
and you've got
yeah,
anxiety, and it's something else, and then you
yeah,
people please and you
yeah,
go to the thing, but then you ignore your own internal feelings because you don't really know what they are half the time. Is it
yeah.
oppositional defiance, or is
It's
it
really
actually a
confusing.
I
Also, there's
feel
another thing in the
stressed.
mix.
I feel stressed just
Oh
talking
yeah,
about it.
I'm clenching my buttocks. They're going to implode in a minute. Oh,
Um,
if you hear a
um,
weird sound, if you hear a strange sound, it's my buttocks imploding. There's another factor, Martin. Right?
go on.
It's another factor. Sometimes it's got nothing to do with ADHD or any other comorbidity. Sometimes, in my case, I had a really strict father.
Hmm.
So I have a real problem. I've always had a problem with authority figures.
I know, Paul.
Yes,
I know you. Yes,
yes, always have done.
your oppositional defiance game is strong.
Yes, thank you. You sounded like Yoda. Ah, the opposition is strong in
Your
you.
opposition
Ah.
is strong. You are with the oppositional defiance disorder.
That's funny. Do you do Jabberwocky? No, do you do
Jabberwocky.
no, not Jabberwocky. Chewbacca.
That's about the best I could do.
Yeah, it's struggling me, Martin. It sounds like you come from a place of knowledge, Martin.
Well, yeah. You know what? I was just
As
thinking all this
in,
kind of like. I'm feeling so tense that I'm having to get it out by doing
yes.
sort of Yoda impressions. It's like some sort of Star Wars stim
release. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because well, those that don't know it, Martin and I work together, and I mean, I've got throughout my press. That's where my most obvious pattern of oppositional defiance has been. It's been through my professional career, burning bridges, and pissing bosses off, and being pretty bloody, belligerent, if I'm honest. Accused of being arrogant, accused of being a loose cannon.
A loose cannon is the classic, obviously.
Yes.
But so you've
a loose cannon.
Yeah, Paul
And,
Loose Cannon Thompson.
And of course, me being like have really strong visual imagination. I could see literally a loose cannon in my mind's in my mind's eye, just going off. In your mind. Yeah. But yeah,
I'm thinking loose cannon sidebar must be on the ships. Like on the Royal Navy ships or ships at sea or war.
Galleons.
The cannons were tied down with a rope, right? So it would fire, and then the recoil would go back, but it was held in place by two ropes. But if something happened to the ropes, then the cannon would actually come adrift on the deck, and then you've got this dangerous. The ship's going up and down. You're firing left, right, and centre. You've got this cannon, which must weigh a ton, just flying around the deck, maiming as it goes.
Maybe
there we go.
With cannon fodder.
Cannon fodder, left, right, and centre. So I feel like that must be the entomology. I can never quite work out which of those two it is, but that must be the origins of that. I will wager this crisp £20 note that I'm holding in front of the camera.
Look, it's got the Queen's head on it.
Yeah,
not the king. Wager it. I'll come and collect it, Martin.
Spend it quick.
So, yeah. So where were we? Yes. So we kind of defined how ODD shows up, and you probably in our ADHD community, they're probably like thinking, certain boxes are being ticked as you go down that list, right?
What of people?
The ODD trait? So often losing temper, bit touchy, easily annoyed, often angry and resentful, often argues with authority figures, often actively defies or refuses to comply with requests from authority figures, often deliberately annoys others, often blames others of their own mistakes and misbehavior. That's a horrible one. Has been spiteful or vindictive, at least within the last 6 months. Last but not least, particularly sensitive to unfairness.
6 months. Jesus Christ.
Because apparently that's when it becomes a disorder. Before 6 months, it's just like a pattern.
All right, because I kind of feel. I mean, I tend to feel it. Well, when I'm scrolling on TikTok or some other social media, and someone has a point of view, I will automatically take up not necessarily the opposite, but some other slightly off to one side point of view that isn't that point of view,
right?
And
yes,
it's and I have to stop myself because I kind of feel like. I kind of feel like like when people misspell there and there and there,
right?
And then they misspell it, and I'm like, go to school, Jesus.
Them and those is quite an often.
what were you doing in class? Like I think, no, stop that. What am I doing? Back off, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
being
get
annoying.
punctuation. I get grammar rage.
Yeah, my wife is very much. I think she very much falls into the. Oh God, we were having a discussion last night. We were watching some trashy Hallmark film, which we do. So one of the things that we do every fall, autumn, is all these Hallmark films come on. The ones, where someone from the big city comes down to the quaint little town, and then there's a struggling business and they help it out, and then they hate each other at first and they fall in love. All that bollocks, right? And our thing is that we shout at the TV and tell everyone that they're complete idiots, like all the way through. And we were watching one last night, which was it was set in Scotland, right? And it was and someone referred to the guy in the big house as the laird, right? Which I think is like Scottish for lord, I would suspect.
I think
right?
So. Yeah.
And my wife is going, I wouldn't call him laird. I would just call him Mister, like Mr. Smith, not Laird Smith. No, I'm not. So she was getting very oppositional about his about using his title.
A laird is a designation that applies to an owner of a large, long-established Scottish estate.
Okay.
Landowner.
Landowner. Okay, that's what it means. All right. So my wife would find that even more pretentious that they've given themselves a title just because they got some land. I mean, I've got a third of an acre. It isn't big. It's tiny. I'm a laird now. Laird West, call me.
I go for tangents as well. I've stopped. We were talking just before we came on the podcast. I've stopped. I've stopped watching a whole bunch of traditional news media channels because I just go into rage about. Often be like, and my girlfriend would be looking at me. It'd be like, what are you getting angry about now? I get angry with the freaking editors that decide to prioritize. I don't know, someone who's lost a tortoise to prioritizing that before a news item about something where some bunch of people have died or something, and it's like the injustice of and like the injustice, like who is that editor? Who decided that item should go before that item? I've just stopped now. It's like, okay, Paul.
Yeah. How are you on road rage? Because I know that it's something that's popped up with you, and it's something that I don't actually weirdly have much of. In fact, when I was first when I first dated my wife, I was driving around and then someone pulled right out in front of me, and I didn't say anything. I was like, okay, that's weird. And she was like, anyone else I would know would be shouting at that guy. I was like, no, it's just like, it doesn't, it just, I don't know whether it's because there is so much insulation between my rage and the outside world that it never quite gets through.
Okay, so you don't get rage in the car?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, you don't live in Italy. And the Italians are really aggressive drivers.
Yeah,
and it drives
they haven't
me
met me, mate. I am. One of the things with ADHD is aggressive driving, like that. That is.
Yeah, I'm not. Although my son said that after 3 years, after I'd lived for 3 years in Palermo, he said that my driving style had changed.
It had to, otherwise it was like kill or be killed.
Exactly. You have to be really decisive. You can't be timid. You can't put your nose out there. You have to put the whole car in the way of the others.
Yes,
that's sport.
It's like you see half a car's gap and you go for it, and you just hope that the car
Yeah.
just lets you in.
Right.
Otherwise everyone is
Yeah.
fucked.
I once, I'm not kidding you. This was actually in Napoli. I once was on a one-way street that merged with another one-way street, merging into one street. Okay, a
Blimey.
car,
Mhm.
a little car with a man inside it, got
Yeah.
slightly ahead of me to the two merging roads, stopped in front of me, wound down his window, and gestured with his eyes that he had a gun, and that if I didn't let him, if I didn't give him the right of way, he was going to put one between my eyes.
Oh, nice one.
And I
Uh,
literally looked behind, thinking, "Is he looking at me?" And he was. He
right.
stared me out. You know, like Paddington Bear did with his neighbour.
Mhm. All
He
right.
stared me
Oh,
out and gestured that he had something under his car seat if I
all right.
didn't play game, if I didn't play ball with him.
That's funny. I was
And
I
yeah,
was in a very similar thing where there was this car, two lanes merging into one. Me and this other car, we were like literally side by side, getting closer and closer and closer to the point.
right.
You know,
Oh, so similar to mine in Napoli.
very
Okay.
similar. They wound down their window and said, "Hey, let us through, go over." And we wound down ours. And I said, "This is a hire car. We don't care."
You said that to him.
Yes.
That's brilliant. Love it. Love it. That's great.
Good
Yeah.
line. Even if
That's
you
a good
don't have a
line.
hire car. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
buy a Land Rover. Do you remember the old Land Rover I used to have? I had
yes,
like a tank.
yeah.
Everyone used to just get out of your way because
Hmm.
the whole tank gives off this vibe of he doesn't care about,
Right.
scratches or dents or
Yeah.
anything.
Who's
Everyone
going to
gets out
come
of
off
your way.
worse? Hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
So, all right. Just
how about oppositional people? Like
mm,
because we're talking about figures of authority. I've actually I've become more oppositionally defiant as I've got older, as far as like
yeah. I
as
think that's quite common.
unless it's like the police is probably the only people, or anyone in the law
Mm,
area, I will be
yeah, I'm
very
all right with them.
reverential to,
So am I.
because I don't want any of that nonsense. But
Yeah.
anyone else, I'm like, I don't. It's especially if you work in the corporate area, right? If you have a job and
Mm,
and the corporate jobs are very hierarchical, right?
mm,
Managers, you know,
yeah.
CEOs. But I think I would actually say that I don't give a crap whether you're the CEO or you're the guy who empties
I
the trash cans.
right.
Like
I'm totally blind to
you're
hierarchy.
you're you're all the same. And if you try and assert your authority on me in a way that is not professional, I don't mind kind of going, right, Martin, here's the task,
Mhm.
here's what I want you to do. Got it, got
Yeah.
it, got it. Absolutely brilliant.
Mhm.
But if they
Yeah.
try and assert their authority in a way that is more like, well, you know, um, I want you to work over the w- the
Yeah.
w- the w- w- the w- w- can't say it. If I want you to work over the weekend on this, and I go,
Yeah.
well, why? And they say, well, because I'm your boss and I'm telling you.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, fuck you then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No,
Oh,
I'm not
because
doing that.
that's just office politics. Is that just people making maneuvers? That's power play. That's
Yeah,
people making a power play.
yeah, and that's where I
And
go.
I've
No,
yeah.
you're trying to
Yeah.
use your
Yeah.
your position in this hierarchy to kind of no.
Oh God! And how many times have you had that? So where does it show up for you, Martin? With do you have a problem with authority figures?
Um, like I just said, if the only yes, but no. I just I don't mind the authority figures, and if they're acting in their capacity, and I see it's like, okay, if there's a park ranger who's telling me to put out a fire or go and walk on this particular trail and not go over there, that's fine. Like I don't mind, because they're just doing their job. But as I said, if they're I don't automatically look at authority figures and go, I'm in defiance of you. It's just if they kind of, if I feel like they're using their position to push me around when it's not necessary.
Who was it said, a psychologist, there's nothing worse than a man with a badge?
Oh, don't know, but yeah, that makes sense.
Something that makes them, I mean, there's a lot of things on that list that does not resonate for me. Like, I'm not one who like blames other people. I'm quite happy to, if I make a mistake, if I act like an idiot, I'll put my hand up. And I'm not someone, actually, I actually really have a problem with people that always point fingers at other people before themselves. I have a massive problem with that, So that's a fairness thing, that goes into the fairness thing. There's a lot of those, but there's a lot of things on that list of ODD that I'm not particularly.
The one that I kind of find interesting is deliberately annoys other people, right? Which is interesting because one thing about ADHD is you have a low. If your dopamine gets low, one way that you can get dopamine is by having an argument or pushing someone or like prodding them, and seeing what their reaction is.
I do something actually that's come to mind now. When I'm walking across the pedestrian crossing, right, because I know how impatient Italian drivers are, I will walk fairly slowly. I'll take my sweet time, because I know that and it happens quite regularly, that literally I'm halfway across and literally they've like scraping my backside with their,
all right, you go, hang on a second.
Yeah, you have to like shift so they get past.
I noticed that the laces on my shoes could be retied. And just like bending down in the middle of the road, retying them.
Yeah.
Switch
the stripes.
Switch to you in the car, and there's someone else walking slowly across the zebra crossing. You're going, what the fuck?
Yeah. No, but no, to be fair, I mean, I'm describing it in that way for comic effect.
I know.
Right?
But I'm saying,
in reality, I just walk across normally, but I am looking out for it. I'm looking out for those arseholes, and I will.
Right.
I've done that. I've put myself in actually in quite difficult situations.
Oh yeah,
people just like
people just don't get like
it,
Right. I mean, I was when I lived in Brooklyn. There was beeping going on outside of the house. Right, I was going of the apartment. I was like, "What the hell's going on?" And there's just like a whole something that happened somewhere down the road. And there's a whole row of cars, right?
Yeah,
all just backed up. I'm like, "What?" And there's one car in particular which is right outside my house, leaning on the horn, just really giving it the. And I'm like, you can't go anywhere. So I went out and I stood in front of their car. I was like,
right,
you can't go anywhere. Get out of the way. And then all the cars started to move, right behind me, and I was still standing there going, see, look, this is what happens. But yeah,
lovely,
I'm
loving that. I'd pay to watch that piece of video.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, I don't know that. I've never seen that side of you, Mr. West. You see,
you know what? It's just I know, because it's like I am quite. I am more up and down than I think people realize. I think.
Yeah, I am sensitive. And yeah, I did once get me into trouble. I was once, this is in Turin, and because you can never be sure, like that guy in the car that you obstructed, right?
Hmm.
That you stood in front of, he could be a kind of a psycho, right?
Oh yeah, I know.
And I did got myself into trouble once. It was
Oh yeah.
actually on my birthday. And the
Oh,
only reason why I didn't end up in accident and emergency, right, in a hospital, was because basically I thought it's my birthday. I don't want to finish up with a hole in my head.
all right.
It's basically
Happy
basically
birthday,
there
Paul.
was
Here's a bullet.
exactly, this guy went into a fit of rage because I criticized him because he didn't thank me for giving him some space on the sidewalk, on the
All
pathway,
right.
right? Because there was some like roadworks, and there was only enough space for one person to get through for about 30 meters. And I waited for him to come through, right? With my
Hmm.
dog. I was waiting for him. And he passed by and he said nothing. And I said, "You're very welcome." And he
All right.
went absolutely ballistic.
Oh,
And he
blimey.
had a full bottle of water in his hands and he threw it at my head.
Oh wow.
Like he threw it. It wasn't like a lob.
A
Should put it that way.
Matrix star. So you were
I
like,
mean, yeah, exactly,
as it
exactly.
flew past your head.
Yeah, and he just went into a complete rage, and I understand. So, I mean, I could go. The story goes on a bit, but you never know. That can
Hmm.
get you into trouble. It
It
can.
can. It
I'm a bit
can.
more careful now, Martin.
All right. Yeah. Sometimes
Anyway,
you kind of go, you know what? It's not worth it. Not
yeah.
worth it. I've got. I've. Is there anything else you want to say before I get onto some of the causes of
Um.
oppositional defiant disorder?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my defiance is. I think it's hard. This is what I was saying right at the top of this podcast. It's hard to define some of these things because there's a lot of merging and crossovering and things with other things. Like sometimes I don't know whether I'm just like like oppositional and defiant because of because I am, or just because of just pure frustration of having ADHD and having to deal with neurotypicals all the time, and being
Right.
feeling misunderstood. It's just like
Yeah.
where does it begin and
Where does it
end?
begin? I know, right? Because I'm sure there are people out there screaming like
Yeah,
it's also a characteristic of tr- of a traumas, right? So
yeah,
it feels like
exactly.
it's wrapped up in that trauma response. So it's not just
Totally.
ADHD. It's not
Yeah,
even just autism.
right.
It's not even it,
I mean, if you can't
that
be angry
can
now,
come from
when you can you be angry?
right, because
It's
if you've got
like the
like
worst. The worst for me is being passive. I think the enemy of society is passiveness.
oh wait on a
Right?
second, we've taken a sharp left philosophical turn
Yeah. Yes.
into civilized to
I basically what
civilizations.
basically what I'm saying is I get in a rage about people being passive. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. I do.
Oh
If someone
dear.
behaves
So
badly, if
let's
even though if I know it could be dangerous,
right.
I can't be passive.
Right. So
I don't want to be passive.
in conclusion, you get annoyed by people being passive, and you get annoyed
Yeah.
by people being angry at you.
No, no, I don't
No.
get annoyed with people being angry. Well, it depends. I think some people like during COVID, everyone was like on the streets complaining about the green cards and stuff like that, or in Europe. Um,
Green
and then
cards.
now, when they should be, yeah, there was a thing called a
What's
green
that?
card. It basically gave you like limited permission to move around with free
Oh right.
will,
Visit
right?
visit a store, get some
If
food. Right.
Yeah, if you've had the jabs, if you'd had the
Oh, okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. All right.
yeah, vaccines. And if you hadn't had the vaccines, you weren't allowed into cinemas, you weren't allowed to blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I think, oh, okay, all right, okay, made their point. But you think, where are they now? All those people, now we should be protesting more than ever. I think, where are they all?
Well,
Right?
when it
That's
affects
what I really
their lives.
yeah.
Yeah. So, So, like if you have, complex PTSD or, I mean, there's so many other trauma things that actually this
Mm-hmm.
oppositional defiant disorder kind of like seems to be part of. So it is this kind of weird little collection of
Yeah.
patterns of behavior.
Yeah.
For
It's a
sure.
very rowdy party.
Causes, which does bring me on to causes. So yeah, I would argue that as we just said, it could be from all kinds of neurodivergent and PTSD and trauma responses, but also ODD has a strong genetic component.
Right.
So if you're like more like us and you're ADHD or even
Yeah.
autistic and ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
it can run in families.
Yeah.
And
But then that conflicts with, for example, in many countries, including the US, ODD isn't actually officially recognized. It's
no.
generally considered to be people that are basically a result of bad parenting.
Oh,
Like Jordan Peterson would talk about ADHD. People not having enough playtime, just
right,
nonsense.
right.
Even though
So
there's a lot of research suggesting the complete opposite. That, as you said, Martin, it is genetic. There's a lot of evidence of it
right, yeah. So it can
that it is
definitely come
genetic.
from our genetics, and actually, when I was doing my research in it, you'll notice that it's almost like you have to wade through pages of
Yes,
ODD in kids first.
exactly.
Like that's where it pops up first, and that's where most
Yeah,
of the kind of chit chat and the
yeah,
online stuff is about.
a whole load.
How do you get your kid to not
Yeah,
to actually behave? I guess. Well, like that's
yeah.
how it
Well,
seems to
interesting on
come
that
across.
subject. They were saying there's a lot of evidence that a lot of the children that actually do have ADHD and or ODD, they're suffering even more trauma because their parents don't know how to deal with the ADHD and the ODD, and then get accused of just being badly behaved children. You
Hmm.
know, it's a big mess, a really big
It's a
mess. This subject.
big mess. Yeah. And other overlaps with ADHD. Impulsivity. So we're quite impulsive. So we might say what we're
Mm,
thinking, and that kind of comes
yes.
across as quite oppositional.
Hmm.
Emotional dysregulation is a big one for
Yeah.
me, because I think when it kind of comes to, and I
Oh
guess we
God.
can,
Yeah.
I can jump into like what can we do? Well, one of the things that we can do is regulate our emotions. So I find that meds, for me at least, help with that. Like
Hmm.
when I'm not on meds, my emotions and I get triggered so much more
Yeah.
easily.
Okay.
But when I'm on meds, I find that it's
Hmm.
harder for me to kind of
Hmm.
that oppositional defiance
Yeah. Hmm.
doesn't kind of come up so much.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing. It was said that by one person that um, the vast majority of people with ODD also have ADHD, but the opposite isn't true. If you can have ADHD and not have ODD,
Mm-hmm. All right.
right?
Interesting.
And the other the other interesting thing was the list that we went through at the top of the podcast. A lot of it's kind of quite extreme stuff. And actually, I was listening to a podcast last week about a lady who she's a psychologist and counselor in prisons, And she was saying, and I at one point, I mean, I won't go too much into because it's a long subject. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating subject. Working for years, like 20 years in prison. She said 90, not 90% of prisoners have ADHD and they're
Mm.
getting no medication for it. But the ones who have had medication have transformed their lives. 90% of prisoners in UK prisons have ADHD.
Yeah,
And
crazy.
things are starting to happen on it. There's a lot of police are saying, crikey, we can resolve a lot of our crime if we looked into this. And she said she barely has a day free for the next year from all the police forces in the UK that want to talk to her about it. So
All right.
something's happening in that side of things.
All right.
In terms of
Okay.
oppositional defiance, prisoners,
Right. So,
crime,
mhm.
it's like the top end, the severe end of the scale. But yeah.
So other things that you can do, obviously, would be avoid burnout, which I know that like we should all be trying to avoid burnout, but it still comes at us,
Yeah.
because that's when the sort of emotional regulation is an all-time low. So just being triggered by stuff and it would just
Mm-hmm.
make that a lot worse.
Yeah. Also, alcohol and other things like that. That's not going to, if you are easily triggered, you may be going through, if you're like me at the moment, you're going through a difficult time personally, economically and work wise. You know, uh, the temptation is to reach, for an extra beer or two. And it's actually, that can, make you even more defiant and more, more angry. So,
Right.
you know, I mean, that
Yeah.
doesn't take a genius to work out, does it really?
No. Therapy is always a
Yeah.
good option. I guess it comes under the don't do it alone heading.
Hmm.
So always communication with the other people is always
Hmm.
going to be key, right? So if
Yeah.
it's like my wife knows me, so in the middle of so if the conversation starts to get a bit heated, she'll go, "You're
Hmm.
doing that thing where you're doing this
Hmm.
thing," and I go, "Oh, okay, oh yeah, I guess I am. All right, back
Mm.
off,
Yeah.
reverse, beep 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 beep."
Handbrake turn.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's just one thing that came to mind, Martin. In the States,
Mhm.
are there such things as like psychologists that are accredited by ADHD associations, or is it
Yeah.
random?
No, no. So
Okay.
uh, you would go to a specific ADHD counselor or
Hmm.
therapist or psychoanalyst. No,
Hmm.
who specializes in. So you can have
Hmm.
ones that specialize in all kinds of different things. So
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
autism
Because
ones, or yeah,
yeah,
loads.
because you
There are
mentioned about
loads of
getting
them.
you talked about getting counselling, but I've heard of people that have just gone to, you know, maybe a psychologist that is convenient to them on a practical level, um,
Oh,
but sometimes don't have any ADHD experience at all,
oh
which can
God,
be
no! Why?
problematic.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah, I know.
I know that actually.
Because
I'm
there are still a lot of people that just trust blanketly, generally trust psychologists to know it all. But I think it's specialist and better to seek out
yeah.
someone who,
I, I,
on their website, they're specifically specific experience.
yes. All right.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, my last thought is oppositional defiance isn't about being difficult. It's about needing to feel heard and valued. Um,
Yes.
and that's my
My last
last
thought
thought
is
on it.
fuck you, oppositional defiance.
Oh, I thought
I'm
it
going
was
to
going to be
take you
me
on. I'm going to take you on, and all your friends,
and all your bastard friends.
all your bastard friends. Come
Nice.
and get it.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
All right.
Yes, on that stupid note.
Let's jump back into the car and we'll head to the post office.
Yes.
Mwah!
Yes, so we got some. We're in the post office, Martin, again.
Oh, I know, it's so drab here.
Yeah,
It always is.
it's a bit drab. It's like hasn't been redecorated since the 70s.
Easily.
It still smokes. It still smells of tabs and
Right. And even when they did redecorate it in the 70s, they still pulled out a design guide
Yeah.
from 1953. So,
Right. I think
even
the
when
only
it
thing
was
they've done
redone,
is
it was old.
yeah. I think since then someone just put some new what are they called in English?
Here we go.
Oh God,
Paul's hunting for the English word.
I'll go for the
Paul's
English
hunting for
word.
the...
Oh no, it's gone. Forget it.
He's more
Wasn't even funny.
Italian than he's English.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that bad?
Batiscopa.
When the
Yeah.
joke is funny in Italian, but then
Yeah, exactly.
dies in
No,
English.
it's not even funny in Italian.
Anyway,
Okay.
post office, you're going to say
Yes.
your line.
Yes. Your feedback is really, really important to us, really vital to us. And any of your comments that you send us might be featured in a future podcast, like these ones.
Go on.
From M Peach. M Peach. I'm really bad at reading these out. M Peach. MPH 8316. She said she's a late diagnosed ADHD, and she says I have a lifelong anchovies versus capers confusion, even though I know the difference in my brain just goes we aren't sure every time. So there was the last podcast we were talking about tuna pasta recipes, and she was saying because I in the first recipe I gave it had anchovies, and then I corrected myself in the one after that. I said, no, it wasn't anchovies, it was capers.
Right.
And she made me
Can't tell the
realize
difference.
something. So in Peach, I realized I've done the same thing for years. Like for instance, I have not. Sometimes I go to a pizza restaurant and it has capers, and I've not ordered it because I've confused it with anchovies, which I hate. Weird.
Weirdly,
for years I've done it, and she does the same.
I actually replied on that this morning, saying that I love capers and I hate anchovies. So I would love for my brain to be.
I'm the same. Yeah.
Yes. Don't forget that you and I, Paul, are basically the same people. We're just someone.
Yeah, that's scary,
someone
actually.
got drunk
That
at
is
a.
scary.
Someone got drunk at a office Christmas party back in 1968 and photocopied me. And now there's you.
It is scary. There's so much truth in that as well. Okay.
Yeah. So I was saying basically that I wish that I could confuse them both because then I'd like anchovies more. Yeah. Who else we got here?
Do you want to read this one out, Martin? I'm running out of steam.
Oh, Shelley gets another shout out. Hello, Shelley. At Shell plus sourdough. There we go.
Yes.
Says Paul. So this one's to you. So I'll have to do an impression of her. Paul, laugh heart emoji. Is that a Band-Aid emoji? I also had.
It looks like a sausage.
I also had an eardrum. Yeah. I also had an eardrum burst on a flight. I thought I might pass out. So painful.
Yes, there's a story. I burst an eardrum once when I had a heavy cold, and I flew to Hamburg for New Year, and my eardrum burst.
That was your first mistake.
Painful. So yeah, big shout out to the burst eardrum community out there.
Oh, the BEC.
Those are the ones
with the Becks.
Exactly. We're a very much aligned and misunderstood community. So just a shout out to the burst in drum community.
Oh, very nice.
Love you all.
Yeah. So that just leaves me to say ADHDville is delivered fresh every Tuesday to all purveyors of fine podcasts. Please subscribe to the pod and rate us most magnificent, and feel free to correspond at will in the comments. But wait, there's more. If you wish to see our beautiful faces, then sally forth to the YouTubes and the TikToks. You can also pick up a quill and email us at adhdville@gmail.com. But in the meantime, be fucking kind to yourself.
And I beseech you, fellow ADHDers, know thyself, sons of the hounds, come hither and get the flesh.
They like us.
Was.
There, just goes to mirror. That's that.